Stephen A., do you think Lamar will be the Ravens quarterback week 1?
I'm inclined to believe so, but it's almost by default. Excuse me, my voice is getting a little bit better, Dan, but it still ain't back yet. But let me say this to y'all. You could like what Odell Beckham Jr. said at the press conference, Molly. I still didn't like the press conference. The fact of the matter is, when you look at Lamar Jackson, look at the position that he's in. We all know that he wants his bag. We all know that he felt insulted because he got like $133 million guaranteed offered to him, which is way below market value in this day and age in the National Football League for a quarterback of his stature. Kyler Murray has shown that because he got $189.5 million. So we understand that. And now that you franchise tagged him, non-exclusive franchise tag, basically that's de facto. I mean, it's almost like de facto collusion, because since they have the right to match any offer that he's going to get, that's going to make teams reluctant to give him those offers. All the things flow in the Baltimore Ravens' favor. And I think because of that, he's going to end up being with them. Now, if I was Lamar Jackson, I would not go out on the field this season at all in a Baltimore Ravens uniform unless I got my money. But in the same breath, I am inclined to believe that Lamar Jackson, who's missed the last 5 games of the last 2 seasons, who's had his durability questioned, who's looking at the Ravens right now, it's not going to be because of Odell Beckham Jr. It's going to be because the Ravens have his rights and they can keep him out for a long time. I mean, if they don't reach a deal and he doesn't come back, he's losing money. He's not getting paid, and then ultimately, your bank account is going to be severely compromised. I think ultimately that's going to win the order of the day. They'll reach some kind of compromise, but it won't be completely to his liking.
Unless something changes, he will not be their starting quarterback week 1. Unless he lied to us. And I don't think Lamar Jackson lied to us. Meet my value, which is what he used. His words were, meet my value, has nothing to do with supporting cast. Lamar, in his tweet, said the Ravens refused to meet my value. So this Odell signing doesn't have anything to do with that. That's why he requested the trade. And unless that changes, I don't see him playing week 1 for the Baltimore Ravens. And I'll go to Eric DeCosta, their general manager, during the press conference, Stephen A., because something stood out to me that he said. He used the phrasing, our feelings on Lamar haven't changed since the end of the season. So if the feelings on Lamar haven't changed, and obviously the contract, to all the reports, is still very much so far apart, then why is Lamar going to then sign this either the franchise tag or some form of an extension? And Molly, to your point, I agree. I did like the wisdom that it sounded like from Odell. But then I also took a step back and I'm thinking, they're boys. Odell, unfortunately, because of the injuries over the last 3 years, I think, has probably lost out on $50 million. If he doesn't have those, right? And so now you have a peer and a confidant that has been through it, who has lost out on money because of his inability to be on the field, going to his friend saying, hey, if you sign this franchise tag and you get hurt again, to your point, Stephen A., people have brought it up. Well, he has missed 11 games or something like that, the injuries. If you miss more time because of an injury, your value is only going to become even more decreased, and you're going to miss out on the money in an even greater sense the way I have. And I think that's a conversation that both of those guys are going to have. So unless something changes in regards to the conversation between franchise and player when it comes to value of money, I do not see Lamar Jackson being their week 1 starter. No.
Well, like I said, I think that, you know what, you're probably right, but this is just what I suspect. Because the non-exclusive franchise tag has been placed there, and as a result, it's prevented people from really coming out and making offers to Lamar Jackson. I think that's where the rubber meets the road. And I think ultimately, at some point in time, Lamar Jackson has to look in the mirror and ask himself what role he's played in this situation being what it is, because I think there's a dual situation working against Lamar Jackson. Number one is the outlier of the contract that Deshaun Watson got. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of people in the league that don't want to see some quarterback getting $230 million guaranteed. If his name ain't Patrick Mahomes, don't do it. That's basically everybody's mentality because nobody else on the planet they think deserves those guaranteed dollars. The key word there is guaranteed. The other important thing that I brought up on numerous occasions, Dan, is let's be clear. We got to remember agents don't want this to happen.
Sure.
Lamar Jackson doesn't have real representation. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody that he has in his family circle. I'm just talking about a certified, bona fide, experienced NFL agent accustomed to negotiating with these teams. He does not have that. So you have the agent community, I believe, whether, tacitly, whether directly, whatever the case may be, working to some degree in concert with teams to make sure this does not happen. Because if Lamar Jackson on his own goes out there, I'm not talking about any old player
right.
or, a wide receiver for a one-year deal or a running back that's a marginal player. A quarterback, a star quarterback in the NFL who goes and gets his bag and guaranteed dollars over a span of a number of years, okay, and pulls that off without an agent, you're going to have a whole bunch of players saying, we don't need an agent.
Yeah.
They don't want that. They don't want that to happen. So he has so much working against him, Dan, that I think a tsunami is coming down upon him. And obviously his character, his pride, his intestinal fortitude may make him say, bump that. But in the end, pragmatism has to kick in. He got to get some money. He got to get paid.
Yeah.
Okay? And how else is he going to pull that off? So it remains to be seen.
But inside the building, are there decision makers that sit back and go, love the kid, love his talent, but last year leaves a sour taste in their mouth, so to speak, with how things went down?
Let me ask you, Dan, let me throw this question at you more directly. I've heard it, and I know you've heard it. Now, I don't know whatever level of truth there is to that because I haven't spoken to Lamar Jackson and gotten his side on this. But there were people who were saying they felt like John Harbaugh was throwing him under the bus when he was out, trying to get him to come back, intimating that, he might not be 100%, but he could still give us something. I don't know if that's true. I don't recall that. At any time last year as the season waned, when Lamar Jackson was out, did you hear anything of the sort that John Harbaugh was like, wait a minute, there was some kind of difference of feelings between Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh?
I think there were moments you could assume,
okay, because I didn't see it. Yeah, I didn't see it. I don't know that. But
I think there was moments you could assume, when he was very go ask Lamar or something like that, you get into a dangerous assumption game. And I think Lamar sent out a tweet, even himself, a week or two ago, saying, it wasn't worth me being out on the field and not fully healthy with the PCL because I'm doing a disservice to my teammates. But I wonder if there are people inside of that building, and we'll never know it publicly, that have reservations about it because of the way not only the injury, but how the injury was I guess internally handled when it comes to him and the team. That's because unless something changes within those conversations, why would Lamar sign a franchise tag? You are rolling the dice immensely.
I will tell you what I heard this week from a very reliable NFL source. They called me to say something. They said, when I brought up DeCosta, they said, Stephen A., stop bringing him up. They said this organization in Baltimore is about John Harbaugh. It's Harbaugh and Steve Bisciotti. They said, make no mistake about it. If Lamar Jackson has an issue, it has very little to do with DeCosta. And it has everything to do with Harbaugh. That's what I've been told. I don't know that. You guys cover the NFL more extensively than I do. I just watch the games and being a journalist and paying attention to what's going on. But you guys know more than me. But they said they literally called me to say, stop bringing up DeCosta. He's a minute factor compared to Harbaugh. They said Harbaugh is the man in Baltimore. Make no mistake, and if Lamar Jackson has a problem, that's the person he needs to have a problem with. because that's the man pulling the strings, with the exception, of course, the owner, Bisciotti. That is what I was told.
They come across like this. Like publicly, my perception is like.
Who's they? Who's
Harbaugh
they?
and Lamar,
Dan, last
I
word
think
here.
they're like this.
Okay.
That's my
And I don't know.
perception.
Right. That's what people
right.
are saying, so we got to pay attention, yeah. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.